Hey there! Hello, so glad you could join us today. In this video, we're going to dive into something super exciting and trending right now. We're talking about parametric modeling for furniture and interior design. You've probably seen those organic, curvy shapes floating around on Pinterest or Instagram, right? You know, the ones that look like they were inspired by nature or maybe even 3D printing. They're getting more and more popular every day. So, we're going to kick things off with some simple models to get the hang of the basics. After that, we'll tackle some more complex forms that are totally reminiscent of those professional designs you see in the design and architecture world. But hey, it's not just about making models, oh no. We want to grasp the logic and thought process behind these forms too. That way, you'll be able to design anything with this approach. At the end of this video, we're going to tackle a really important question, alright? If we want to bring these designs to life, what do we need to do? If you're into digital design, Rhino, parametric stuff, or even making real furniture, stick with me until the end of this video. Let's get started. Hey there everyone, I'm Hussein and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're diving into the world of parametric modeling, specifically in furniture and interior design. We're going to create a few models, some simple, some complex, step by step. And then we'll explore the process we'd need if we wanted to bring these designs to life in reality. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so let's kick things off with something pretty straightforward, right? We're starting with the wall. Just a simple wall. And, you know, we're going to gradually dive into more complex stuff later on. Now remember, we've talked about this before in our sessions. There's this super important rule for modeling. Don't panic. Seriously, just don't. And also, let's keep it simple in our minds, yeah? So for now, let's totally ignore the whole mesh or contoured parts. If you really take a good look, what we've got here is a wavy surface, and in some spots it's even created little areas where you can sit. So like the first step is to model this surface, right? There are like various ways to create this shape, but for this exercise I want to use Loft. If you guys know any other methods, just drop them in the comments, okay? So like I'm going to draw a few control point curves with the same length and in a straight line, just like you see in the picture. We're going to create a surface by lofting these curves. So, we need to draw the curves in a way that shapes our desired form. For example, I'm going to shape this seating area like this. Alright, so when we place the curves next to each other with the right spacing, we can loft them, right? And then we set the mode to whatever we want, normal, loose, tight, whichever one you prefer. It's just that easy. We've already made it through a major part of the modeling process and built the main surface. Now, let's dive into the whole cutting and contouring thing. Before we contour, just to get a cleaner result, I'm going to use the extrude surface command to give the surface some thickness. Then, holding down Ctrl plus Shift, I select the back surface and use set X, Y, sin, Z coordinators to flatten it out so it aligns the way we need it to. Now it's time to do the contouring, right? According to the previous tutorial, I'll drop the link in the description, don't worry. First, we select the object, yeah? Then we execute the contour command. And, oh, we need to specify the cutting directions, right? Super important. And then we got to enter the distance between the contours. Remember that number, because you're going to need it for the thickness too. Okay, so now our sections are all set up. And, right here, since everything is selected, let's just hit group to make it easier to select later on. All right, so here we go. The final step, right? We're extruding these sections. Using the command extrude closed planar curve, I'm going to extrude them. But, oh wait, the height of the extrusion has to be equal to or less than the distance we contour, like for real. So check this out. If it's more, the pieces are going to overlap and like totally mess up. If it's equal, they stick together completely, which is, you know, kind of intense. But if it's less, then there's going to be a gap between them. So yeah, that wraps up the first exercise. Now let's jump into the next exercise. All right, let's dive into another example together, shall we? So the overall path is exactly like the last exercise, right? First, we build the surface, then we take the contour, and finally, we give it some thickness. But here's the twist. The main difference in this example is that the sections we use for loft are closed. Just like you see in the picture, to create the initial surface, I'm drawing the curves in a closed manner using control point curve. Then I space them out evenly, and with loft, I turn them into a flat surface. All right, so here's the thing, right? We've got this surface made, but this time I want to try something totally different. You know, like we're going to use CageEdit to create this form. First, we're going to draw a box, like whatever size we want for the bench, just like you see here. Then, using the fillet edge command, we're going to round off the corners a bit, just to make the form like super soft and smooth, you know? It's going to look really nice. So now we're diving into CageEdit, right? We're going to run the command and set those parameters to these values. X equals 5, Y equals 2, Z equals 2. With that, the control points will pop up on the form like this. And now I'm just going to pull those midpoints up, just like you see here, so the form gets the look I'm going for. Just that easy. The initial form is created. If you have any other ways to whip up this form in mind, please drop those in the comments. Just like we practiced before, we're going to keep going. We're diving into contouring. For contouring, it's exactly like before. First, we select the object. Then we hit the contour command. After that, we choose the cutting direction. And, oh, don't forget to enter the distance between the cuts. Now remember this number, it's super important for adding thickness later on. Okay, so now the sections are all set. At this point, with everything selected, I'm going to group them once. Just makes it way easier to select them later. Here's the deal with the last step, right? We're talking about extruding the sections. So, like, you use the command extrude closed planar curve. Got it? And then I give thickness to the contours. But wait, there's more. The height of the extrusion has to be equal to or less than the distance of the contour. Okay? So check this out. If it's more, then, oh man, the pieces will overlap and like totally mess up. If it's exactly the same, they stick together perfectly. And if it's less, then like there's going to be gaps in between them. So that's it for the second exercise. But like now it's time to jump into a somewhat more complex example. All right, so here we go with exercise 3. At first glance, it might seem a bit complicated, right? But trust me, it's really not that different from the last two examples. So as always, remember, don't panic and like simplify the form. Just like in the first two exercises, the first step is to model the initial surface of the form. So as you can see, I'm going to sketch out the necessary sections, and then with Loft, I'll create the main surface. Since I've already explained this process in the first and second exercises, I'll just skip over it for now. The thing that makes this example different from the previous ones, right, is that there's this opening for the tree to pass through at the end of the form. So to create this opening, I'm going to draw a cylinder right where I want it, and then I'll use the split command to separate that part from the surface. Since we're working with a surface and not a solid form, we're going to use split instead of Boolean. But hey, if you create a solid form, then Boolean could totally come in handy. So there we have it. The initial form is done. Now, just like always, we're going to move on to contouring. And then we'll add thickness to the sections, which is done exactly the same way as before. And that's it. It's that simple. All right, so let's dive into another example, yeah? The image you see here, it's actually pretty much the same as the last 3 exercises, right? Just one key difference though. Instead of contouring in just one direction, we're contouring in 2 directions. Now let's get straight to modeling so we can see the process more clearly. Starting with the basic form, just like before, we need an initial surface. So I'm going to create this surface exactly like you see it here. Cool, right? So let's kick things off with contouring, right? Just like I mentioned earlier, after we take those contours, we're going to group all those contour lines together, just to make it easier for us to pick them later on. And trust me, in this example, grouping is going to shine even more. Now, moving on to the second contour, this time we're going vertical, right? So we're going to take that contour again, but like in the opposite direction this time. And of course, just like before, we'll group those segments. Now here comes the fun part adding thickness. In the end, we'll give both sets of segments some depth with extrude. And just like that, we're done. It's that simple. This exercise really shows us that honestly, with those basic principles, we can create forms that seem way more complex and like super attractive. Before we dive into the final part, let's do a quick recap of what we've learned in this video, yeah? First up, we figured out how to create simple forms using Loft. Then, we moved on to contouring those forms, right? We added some thickness to the sections and established the main structure. We even modeled a few examples with low to medium complexity. And guess what? We discovered that even those forms that seem super complicated at first can actually be built easily by simplifying our thinking and following these steps. Okay, so if you found this tutorial helpful, right, you should definitely subscribe to the channel, like seriously. And don't forget to share the video with your friends because it could really help them out too. And for those of you who are looking to take this journey a bit more seriously, we're diving into Grasshopper in the next videos. Can you believe it? We'll be automating those forms. This is going to cut down your design time a ton, and you'll have those forms ready without having to draw each section by hand. So make sure you follow the channel so you don't miss out on those advanced lessons. It's going to be epic. So let's dive into this super important question, yeah? Like if we want to actually build these designs, what's the deal? Generally, crafting this kind of furniture goes down with like digital fabrication methods, right? Tools like CNC machines or laser cutters are used to slice up the parts. Those are the members, by the way. And then ultimately all these pieces got to come together for assembly. But hold up. Before we even get to building, it's crucial that all the nitty-gritty details are mapped out in the 3D model. Like everything has to be designed and specified. Like when you have these contours, right, they need to be positioned together like perfectly, They have to have this like specific way to be secured or connected. Just like what you see in the picture. I used a strap to hold the members in place, and every piece, it fits exactly where it's supposed to go. If you want the assembly process to go smoothly, like really smoothly, you absolutely have to number all the parts. Seriously, if you skip that step when it comes to assembling, oh man, you're definitely going to run into some trouble. You can totally do this inside Rhino, or you can use Grasshopper tools. Trust me, I'll have a full tutorial on that later. Once all your pieces are ready and numbered, all you got to do is arrange them just like in this example, send them for cutting, and then boom, you can start assembling everything together. Just like that, your design will turn into reality. Oh, my tip, for your first build, make sure to get help from an experienced professional so you can save time and avoid wasting materials. Thank you so much for sticking with me this far. If you found this video helpful, you definitely want to hit that subscribe button. Seriously, you don't want to miss out on the next videos coming your way. Until next time, take care and see you later.